Hi guys, so today I'm going to be trying my first King of Bots RC model, and it's going to be Tanshe or Tanshe or whatever it's called. The John Reed and Gabriel from Sabretooth flipper robot. So for this I'm going to be using a beta. I bought another one. I've had this idea for a flipper for a while where it's cut off here again, and then some sort of roller here flips forward and sort of almost cams the flipper up. And I was waiting for ages because it's such a big robot on plan, like this this beta. It doesn't really fit into Apollo or Eruption or any other ones I'd kind of like to make. But when I watched King of Bots, I saw Tanshe. I was like, this is a very similar shape. This is a good shape. So I'm going to give it a go.
So I've made up this little Lego piece here with some rollers on it, nice and free rolling. So my aim is to put this in here, and so like I say, when this flips forward, a sort of hinge here will then pivot upwards. We'll see how it works out. Once again, this bit is quite scary to do. While that's drying properly, I can I've drawn a rough outline here just to sort of gauge where everything's going to be. It's going to be quite large, this, I think, but then it's a big wide kind of robot anyway. For the hinge bit at the back, I'm going to be using Lego bits again, just because that'll give it a nice easy moving hinge. And it's quite sort of almost thick black piping, so I'm going to use these drinking straws for that, but obviously they're not going to be strong enough, so I'm using this sort of big metal rod there to sort of make it actually have some strength, because otherwise it's just going to fold up as soon as it tries to flip. So it's dried off now, and we've got the roller sort of mechanism attached there, so hopefully you can see the sort of principle of that. I'm hoping it's not too high, because obviously the hinge has got to sit right at the back. So looking at Tanshe, you can see we've got these big white panels, and I want to make it sort of hard hitting, and obviously that flipper has to be able to take a bit of weight. So I looked around and I found this, which is from a whiteboard. So I don't know if you can see the sort of material. So it is actually metal, it's actually magnetic. But it's nice and thin and wobbly, and hopefully that means it'll be quite easy to cut, but should still be reasonably substantial. So using my scale plan, I've made these little things which are meant to be the internal bulkheads. It's been a bit of trial and error trying to get the size right, because they are sitting on a slope, obviously, in this model. But in real life they just go down to the floor of the actual robot, I believe. So it's been a bit of trial and error getting them at the right angle and stuff, but I'm going to glue them on now, see how it looks. I've made them out of the big thick corrugated cardboard, because they're going to be holding the hinge, so they're going to have to take the strain of the flipper. It looks a bit of a weird old site here, but we've got the bar along the back, and these little bits here and here are where the flipper is going to sort of plug in, as it were. It's a really weird one to build. I've sort of had to do these bits first, then I've got to build the sort of side panels around, and only then can I build the flipper, because it sort of rests on top of all that, so I need it all to sort of align. There's a very definite order of how to do it in. Right, I've made up some side panels. I'm pretty pleased with the size and shape. I kept thinking this sort of bit at the back looked really tall, it's sort of like a spoiler almost looking back, but looking at the actual pictures, it's more of a smooth sort of wedge, and obviously makes it longer once it's got this flipper sitting here. So I'm not too worried, and it's just the right height for the mechanism, so that's fine. I was debating as to whether to leave these as just, because this is just cardboard at the moment, but I gave it a very quick test run, and don't know if you can see there, instantly creased it at the front by hitting into the wall. So I'm still going to persist and put on the metal, the white metal sections. Look at the sort of glimmering light. It looks kind of well, metallic, because it is. And what I thought might happen has sort of started happening. I don't know if you can see there, along the folds there's like chips of paint, but on the real one, once it's been in battle a few times, it's got chips of paint in those exact places, so that kind of plays off as battle damage. So I don't mind either way. If it hadn't happened, cool. Now that it has, not a biggie. What on earth are these? So I've put some little bits of the metal again. One side is white, the other side is this nice dark grey. And I've sort of wedged them toast rack style in these little chips, and these are the little bits, I don't know if you can just see that, sort of go there, and the same the other side. And then hopefully I'll be able to stick them in there and there. I've also, as you can see, put the metal struts for the flipper arm on, and I've got a cardboard wedge for the front, and I've made a metal one, and look at the way the paint's chipped. It actually looks really good. As you can see, the flipper is really starting to come together now. I've slipped straws over the rods, so it's got the strength, but it looks like the sort of sleek, glossy black metal rods on the actual one. I've used the bends in the straws to do the bends in the rods, because the actual straw would just sort of bend, kind of like it has done there, otherwise. And I've just put this big strong cardboard bit under here, which will be the point where the rollers roll along underneath. So the flipper is coming together very nicely. Just put the shovel on, or the cardboard one. The metal one is there. I'm going to put that on in a minute. This, whatever this bit is, decorative bit, is on. And I'm going to leave it all to dry until tomorrow, because it's going to be under a hell of a lot of force, I think. Okay guys, I've let it dry overnight, and here is the final product. So the way it looks, I am over the moon with, to be honest. Like, there's little things like could be a little bit lower, like wider, like the shovel should probably be a bit closer to the actual main body, but they're little nitpicks generally, and I'm really pleased with how it looks. This central hole in the middle, on Tanshe there's like a kind of light thing with a ring around it, but that seems to fall off on the first flip on every single battle, so almost, well, I didn't really know what to make that out of, and then as a homage to that fact that it always falls off, I thought I'd just leave it as just the empty hole. Around the back, similar to Terahertz, it's got this, it should have an overhang, but just due to the shape of beta that I've converted it from, it's going to have a bit sort of protruding downwards, but that's okay, that's, you know, just how it is. And as an added feature, which I didn't really think about at first, you could, because it's a whiteboard, you can like draw battle damage and stuff on it. That looks just like battle damage. But yeah, what an unexpected little bonus feature. So now we come to the scary bit for me. We're going to test the flipper, and like I say, because of the way I had to build it, the flipper is the last thing I can actually test. So I've got two big fears. First one is that it flips and it's so powerful it just throws this all the way back and it's just stuck like that. That isn't too much of a disaster, because I can always add some elastic bands, like the bungee cords like they have on the real robots. My bigger fear is that this flipper is so powerful that it just rips the whole thing apart, and it's just, I'm there, it's like, no. But I mean, the next step is testing it. So there we go. I'm going to put this delightful looking half-used toilet roll behind it to act as a sort of cushion should it flip all the way back. Okay, here we go. No, it's not strong enough. Shit, okay. That was a problem I didn't even see coming. Fuck. Okay, it flips that way, but not the other way. So it didn't explode, and therefore it's a successful test. So this end, he's got the hinge is all the way back here, so it requires very little strength for him to flip it back. But this side, he's trying to push right on the hinge essentially. So the only way to rectify that is to move the whole thing back, which I'd rather not do. There is some room with the flipper there, admittedly, but we could very easily compromise structure and shape and put a lot of things out, or to try and make the pivot arm even shorter. And again, there is a little bit of leeway there if we sort of chop it down a bit and move the whole thing in slightly. So after ages of trying to adjust a little Lego roller system to make it good, I found that once I took it out completely, it worked a lot better. It didn't flip very high, but it still flipped, so I've just added a tiny little wedge of plastic. So it's had some time to dry, let's montage this.
Okay guys, so looks wise, absolutely over the moon with it. Like I say, could be a little bit lower and wider, but ultimately really pleased the way it's all worked out, and I like the white panels and like the battle damage they seem to be getting already. I'm pleased the flipper works, don't get me wrong. A little bit disappointed with the power. As you know, one of my fears was that it would just like rip the whole thing apart, but it can barely lift the flipper. And if you notice in the montage, I had to go and get my old little model Snowstorm just for something light enough for it to flip. So yeah, it's not really very competitive, but it's good fun all the same. And like I say, I'm glad in principle I got the flipper working. And as a little bonus, because obviously that was made from another beta and therefore I now have 2 Minotaurs, I thought, what shall I do with one of them? Sticking with a King of Bots style, I've made it into a Rust Boar because they look exactly the same essentially. Not worth another video because I've literally just coloured it in. But there we go, I thought a little King of Bots special. So, hope you enjoyed this video guys, as always. Thank you for watching, and cheerio.